This videotape is part one of a two-part series designed to augment your vessel's current training program as set forth by the STCW Personal Survival Techniques requirements. It outlines the general procedures and sequence of events a seafarer should follow during a survival situation. This video contains the following sections: Introduction to Safety and Survival, Emergency Electronic Equipment, Evacuation, Personal Life-Saving Appliances, Survival Craft, Survival at Sea, and Conclusion. Training and drills are an indispensable element to any emergency preparedness plan. An effective chain of command is also important during an emergency. The station bill must be referenced by all vessel personnel to determine the chain of command and to ascertain a seafarer's specific responsibilities when called to survival craft stations and when required to abandon ship. Knowledge of what to do when in the water, when aboard survival craft, and awareness of the main dangers to survivors will greatly improve one's chance of surviving at sea. All distress alerts should be made by VHF, MF, HF, digital selective calling, or satellite communication systems, depending on location and atmospheric conditions. Distress messages should be prefaced by the word Mayday and should include the vessel's name, call sign, position, and nature of the distress. An emergency position indicating radio beacon, or EPIRB, is a required piece of equipment carried aboard ocean-going vessels. An EPIRB transmits a signal to polar orbiting satellites on 406 megahertz. Information of the vessel's identity and position is then relayed to a rescue coordination center. EPIRBs are waterproof and designed to float free if time does not permit them to be carried to the survival craft. Regulations require short-range, two-way VHF radio telephones to be aboard. These radios will provide communication between the ship's survival craft, other vessels in the vicinity, search and rescue vessels, and search aircraft. All GMDSS vessels are equipped with search and rescue transponders, or SARTs. The SART is often mounted near the EPIRB and should be taken with you when you abandon the vessel. SARTs need to be kept at least 1 meter above the surface of the water. This will allow a passing ship or rescue boat to receive the distress signature on their X-band radar. A SART signal shows up on the radar as a distinct dashed line. The abandoned ship signal consists of more than 6 short blasts followed by 1 long blast on the ship's whistle and general alarm bells. You must obey an order to abandon ship promptly and in accordance with the station bill and all previous drills and training. Upon hearing the abandoned ship signal, it is imperative that you don your life jacket and dress as warmly as possible. If no immersion suits are available, it is very important to dress in warm clothing. Even wet clothing will help insulate your body against the cold. The decision to abandon ship is made by the master of the vessel. When the decision has been made, proper launching of survival craft should begin. It is important to remember not to jump into the sea unless you have no alternative. Chances of survival increase significantly if you keep your body dry. If you must jump into the water, jump from the lowest height possible. Select a spot where the sea is free of oil, fire, or debris, and jump feet first. Keep your legs crossed and slightly flexed at the knees. Close your mouth and place one arm across your chest to hold your flotation device in place. The thumb and forefinger of your other hand should be used to close your nose. Finally, try to swim clear of the ship to avoid its suction if it sinks. Personnel flotation devices that are found on ocean-going vessels are known as Type 1. They provide the greatest buoyancy and protection. These types of PFDs, also known as life vests or life preservers, are designed to turn most unconscious persons in the water from a face-down position to a face-up position. The adult size provides a minimum of 22 pounds of buoyancy. The PFDs on commercial vessels are fitted with reflective material, lights, and whistles. Immersion suits are full-body suits designed to fit over normal clothing and be donned in less than 60 seconds. They cover your entire body except for a small area around the eyes and nose. These suits lessen shock upon entering cold water, reduce body heat loss during long periods of immersion, and provide buoyancy. Most immersion suits are fitted with an external inflatable device to increase the buoyancy of the suit. This buoyancy chamber must not be inflated until after water entry. Immersion suits should be stowed in an accessible location, available to all crew members. Life rafts may include thermal protection aids or TPAs. These full-body suits should be used to preserve body heat while inside the raft. If required to manually launch a life raft, the following steps should be followed. Secure the painter or operating cord to a strong point on the vessel. Manually disengage the hydrostatic release. Then drop the raft overboard in its container. With the raft in the water, pull the painter to its full length and give it a sharp tug. This will operate the gas release valve and the raft will inflate. Once the raft is partially inflated, it may be boarded. If the freeboard of the vessel is less than approximately 6 feet, it is possible to jump directly into the raft. It is important to be careful of people already in the raft. When entering the raft from the water, use the boarding ladder and grab straps provided. Once inside, assist others entering the raft. If the ship sinks before the life raft can be launched, a hydrostatic release will trip at a depth of 5 to 15 feet and allow the raft to float free and inflate. In the unlikely event that the raft should inflate upside down, it can be righted by one person. Turn the raft with the canopy into the wind. Signs on the raft will indicate which side to use for righting purposes. Climb onto the cylinder of the raft and use the righting handholds. Lean well back and, as the raft comes over, swim out from under. Make sure not to let the raft blow or float away from you during this process. Inflatable life rafts are provided with an assortment of survival items, including a boarding ladder, heaving line, jackknife, lifeline, paddles, sea anchor, and an inflation pump. Other equipment located in the raft include bailers, drinking cup, first aid kit, thermal protection aids, flashlight, signal mirrors, provisions, repair kit, distress signals, cellulose sponges, and drinking water. An instruction manual which gives basic instructions for how to use the equipment is also enclosed in the raft canister. Rafts are inflated with carbon dioxide from a cylinder located at the bottom of the raft. Whether exhaled by the raft's occupants or leaking from the buoyancy tubes, carbon dioxide can be suffocating. Consequently, always leave the canopy curtains partially open. When the raft is initially inflated, it is normal for the excess gas to escape from the pressure relief valves located on each buoyancy tube. You will notice the gas escaping by a hissing sound at the valve. The sound should stop within a few minutes, and the valve should then be capped. If the tube is leaking elsewhere, it should be repaired immediately with the repair kit provided. There are also a number of repair clamps in the raft. These can be used to repair larger holes. Leak stoppers are included in the raft's equipment as well. These are used to stop leaks until permanent repairs can be made. It is normal for the buoyancy tube to harden or soften with the change in temperature. If the tubes become too hard, the caps on the relief valve should be removed to allow deflation. If the tubes become too soft, the inflation pump should be used to stiffen the life raft. The inflatable floor, if provided, should be inflated for added insulation. All attempts to stay in the area where you abandon ship and make the distress calls should be made. A sea anchor will automatically stream when the raft is launched. It may be necessary to cut the sea anchor free in order to get away from the debris in the water. A knife is located in a special pocket on the outside of the canopy near the entrance for this purpose. Once clear of all debris in the water, the second sea anchor provided in the raft should be deployed to help reduce the drift of the raft. Ballast bags, located on the underside of the life raft, keep the raft stabilized. These bags, which fill with water, also help keep the raft from drifting. As soon as possible after boarding, seasickness pills should be taken by all the occupants of the raft. The raft canopy should be used to keep survivors out of the sun as much as possible to reduce the loss of body fluids. Except to the sick or injured, no water ration should be issued the first 24 hours. During the first 24 hours, any liquid ingested will not be very beneficial, as it will be passed out of the body in sweat or urine. In addition, no water should be given to an unconscious person. After the first 24 hours, only one ration per day should be given to each of the occupants. In order to make the batteries on the inside and outside lights on the raft last longer, the bulbs should be turned off during daylight. The bulbs can be unscrewed, or some rafts have the ability to turn the lights off at the power source. Smoking should not be allowed inside the raft since it creates thirst and may damage the fabric of the raft. Once settled in the raft, the person in charge will assign and explain specific duties to each person in the raft. This will help keep all the survivors busy and improve morale. A lookout schedule should be established. All lookouts should know what type of signals must be prepared for use at various times of the day and in various conditions. The lookout should be instructed to wake everyone if it rains, so as much water as possible can be collected. Water can be collected from the rain-catching devices fitted on the canopy. Make sure to let the salt residue wash off before collecting drinking water. Included in the life raft's equipment are handheld and aerial pyrotechnics that display smoke during the day and a distinctive flame at night. These signals should only be used when a rescue craft has been sighted. During daylight, handheld orange smoke distress signals as well as floating orange smoke signals can be used. The handheld signal is a flare or a pyrotechnic torch, about 8 to 12 inches long. Each signal has its own igniter attached. The floating orange smoke signal is operated by unscrewing the cap and sharply tugging on the trigger wire. The device should be thrown overboard to leeward. Nighttime distress signals include handheld red flares and parachute red flares. Handheld flares are not useful when trying to attract rescuers from a distance, as they cannot be seen over the horizon. Parachute red flares are devices which can be fired from your hand to provide a rocket-propelled distress signal which rises to an altitude approximately 1,000 feet and burns for 40 seconds. Always follow the specific instructions on the use of distress signals. Improper use may result in personal injury and damage to the survival craft itself. Hypothermia is the primary hazard to life when the body is immersed in water. This occurs when the body's internal or core temperature falls below normal. If you have any control of the situation, enter the water as slowly as possible. This will help minimize the physiological shock. If you cannot enter slowly, a properly donned immersion suit or life preserver will help minimize immersion shock. Body heat loss is approximately 25 times faster in water than in air of the same temperature. Therefore, utilize any wreckage or floating debris in the area to hoist yourself out of the water. While in the water, it is crucial to conserve as much of your body temperature as possible. With your life preserver on, assume the heat escape lessening posture, known as HELP. This is accomplished by tucking your legs in front of you, with your knees as tightly against your stomach as possible. Your upper arms should remain tightly against your sides, and your forearms should be folded against the front of your chest. This technique will protect heat from escaping the principal heat loss areas of the sides of the chest and the groin. If you don't have a life preserver, reach for something to support you and assume a position as close to the help technique as possible. It may be necessary to relax from time to time if you get cramps, but keep the posture as long as you can. Do not tread water unless you have to, and try to avoid any drown-proofing technique you may have learned, which requires you to submerge your head in the water. Studies have shown that treading water, which requires continuous movement of the arms and legs in various patterns to keep the head out of the water, results in a cooling rate which is 34% faster than holding still in a life jacket. Drown-proofing techniques, which involve restful floating with lungs full of air, interrupted every 10 to 15 seconds for raising the head out of the water to breathe, result in a cooling rate 82% faster than holding still in a life jacket. All survivors which are in the water should group together and huddle as closely as possible, facing each other and protecting the front and sides of the body. Group protection has the added benefits of reinforcing your positive attitude toward surviving, giving buoyancy to those without PFDs, and vastly improving search and rescue efforts. The ability to survive a disaster at sea depends on several criteria. Training and drills will become invaluable if you are the unfortunate victim of such a disaster. Being aware of the emergency and safety equipment available to you, as well as where it is located and how to use it, is paramount. Despite this knowledge, the single most important factor in survivorship is the will to live.